one thing I really liked about the Gita the last time I read it was, for the first time, I noticed how the first chapter begins with a conflict. And the stage, the setting of the story is so beautiful that Arjun is in the middle. And on the one side is all the people who rely on him. Other side is the enemy, but they are also his family. And he is now conflicted that should he fight, should he not? And the rest of the book is about resolving that conflict. Now, in this case, the conflict seems to be a very big one, war. But conflict is something that we go through every day. Every minute. Should I call up my friend or not? Should I order Swiggy or not? Whatever. Everything is a conflict. And I had never noticed it before, but it suddenly felt that, oh, this is a very practical book.
Very practical book.
That it begins with a conflict.
Right. You know, chapter 1 that you mentioned, Sri Krishna doesn't utter a single word.
Wow. Really? I didn't notice that.
Not a single verse. And that's what makes the whole thing so relatable.
Chapter 2 starts with...
Chapter 2 is...
Shri Krishna Uvacha.
Even in chapter 2, it's after a few verses that Shri Krishna comes in. So, chapter 1 is us, you and me.
Right.
Chapter 1 is there to bring us into the picture. Everybody is talking. Dhritarashtra is talking.
Yes.
Sanjay is talking.
Yes.
Duryodhana is talking. Arjun is talking. Shri Krishna is not talking. Chapter 1 is about us. That battlefield is our own lives.
Right.
People from all different places. And he's going to Bhishma and saying, we need to protect him.
Yeah.
And he's saying, look at that side, they appear mightier than us. Apprehensions, greed, attachments, everything is there.
Right.
And Arjun especially, very remarkable is this chapter 1. He comes up with two things. One, they are my friends, kin, kith. How do I fight them? They are related to me by blood. So that's physical conditioning. Even animals have that. They usually don't want to attack their own pack, their own tribe. Second thing that Arjun talks of is social conditioning. If this war happens, then all the Kshatriyas might be killed, and then what happens to our women? Probably the women will go to those who do not belong to our Varna or caste. And then what will happen? Arjun goes on explaining. He says, the kids that will be born out of such illicit relationships, they'll not be qualified to offer the right rituals to our dead ancestors. And then their souls will suffer in various kinds of hells. So now this is all this is religious dogma. All this is religious dogma. Social conditioning. Arjun has heard of all these things from somewhere. They're not coming from the body.
It's all coming back.
First of all, it has come to Arjun from the society. It is not even arising from the body.
Right.
That there are higher castes and lower castes, and that there are souls somewhere in the sky, and that if you offer the right kind of rituals, then those souls are appeased. So that's social conditioning. That's religious dogma. So two kinds of things Arjun is suffering from right in the first chapter. One, physical conditioning. How do I kill my own brothers out there? That is physical conditioning. The second is social conditioning. Higher caste, lower caste, and the status of women. They are our women. How do we let our women go to the other side? And what about the kids that will be born? All kinds of... That sets the stage for what's going to come now. What's going to come now is a demolition of physical and social conditioning. I call it freedom from vritti and sanskriti. Vritti as in the physical tendencies, sanskriti as in the social culture. And that's what Krishna goes on to very successfully deconstruct.
That's beautiful.
So that's what the entire Bhagavad Gita is devoted to. Freedom from the conditioning of the body and the conditioning of the mind. And it's not at too many places that Sri Krishna directly exhorts Arjun to fight. That happens only rarely. Gita is about letting Arjun know who he is. In a very liberal way, Krishna says, if you realize who you are, then you will know what to do. I do not need to instruct you. I do not need to command you or school you. That's for kids. So Arjun is not even being motivated, let alone being instructed. He's being illuminated.
Right.
And that illumination enables him to do what he must.
I had this thought that because of that conflict, Arjun is going through an anxiety attack. And there is a phrase that the hair on his skin is standing, his mouth has gone dry. Typical symptoms of an anxiety attack, specifically shivering,
Can't even stand.
Weakness, limbs are weak. So full sympathetic crisis. His adrenal gland is really active. Cortisol levels have gone up.
Yes.
He is now in that state of mind. He's panicking.
Yes.
And because of that, he is catastrophizing. He is only imagining worst case scenarios. He is imagining he's spiraling. And you can see that. So it's almost like you are listing the symptoms of an anxiety attack in chapter 1.
Right.
And later on, what comes in the next chapters, like you said, is an exercise in how to deal with somebody who's going through an anxiety attack. Because Krishna does not immediately say, hey, get over it.
Or just get up and fight.
Just get up and fight. Just do your job. It's not that straightforward. So I thought also, what a great framework to deal with somebody who's going through a mental health problem.
In fact, again, the way the mind is classically defined is that it is an aggregation of objects and structures around your sense of self. So it's me, the I, at the center, you could say the linchpin.
Yeah.
And me being who I am, I accumulate a lot of stuff around myself, like one does in his home. And all that accumulation, that aggregation, and those relationships, that entire network is the mind. So any crisis of mind is actually a crisis of the one who accumulated the mind. Because mind is just objects, and objects in themselves are not conscious or sentient. Objects do not know anything. So it's never the mind that is agitated. The agitation of the mind is a symptom, not the central cause. It's the self that is not restful. And the only thing that makes the self not restful is absence of self-knowledge. So when the self, the ego, is not at rest, the mind will be agitated. The ego cannot be seen, but the mind can be experienced as the brain, and there can be very tangible and physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever seen the ego. But the mind is more tangible. And the brain, as we know, the brain is the body, it is very tangible. So we say the mind is agitated just because we cannot see the ego at the center of the agitation. So if the mind is not the root cause of agitation, if the ego is at the center of agitation, and if this diagnosis can be done, then the treatment of mind must begin with the treatment of the ego. For the ego to be treated, first of all, the disease has to be known, or the condition has to be known at least. The condition of ego is one of lack of self-knowledge. That is the very definition of ego, not even the condition. The ego is the self that does not know itself. So because the ego does not know itself, it is sick. It's a cultivated sickness. It's a fake sickness actually. The ego is not really sick. It's a sickness that it has just superimposed upon itself. The
ego is struggling with lack of unity with.
See, it's like this. I think of myself as a bird, and now I'm anxious that I cannot fly. The thing is, you are not a bird at all. The moment you realize that, the anxiety is gone. So lack of self-knowledge can lead to all kinds of anxieties. If I take myself to be what I am not, I'll expect myself to do things that I can't.
And in today's world of social media, our identity has never been more fluid.
Not fluid.
You see somebody with a fancy car, you suddenly assume the identity of someone with a fancy car. And now not having a fancy car gives us sadness.
And the problem with this fluidity is that it is an imposed fluidity born out of helplessness of the one it is being imposed on. What does this fluidity mean? It basically means that you can come and affect my identity in one way. Now you leave and somebody else comes and my identity becomes dependent on that one. This is the fluidity we are talking of. It's a state of helplessness. I'm not in charge of who I am. Anybody comes and starts determining my sense of self.
My state of mind.
My state of mind. Why? Because I do not know who I am. If I do not know, let's say, my own name, and you come and address me as AB, then I'm AB for the while. Then that one comes and calls me CD. I become CD again for a while. So that's fluid identity. And it's a state of great slavery. Helplessness and powerlessness. Just because I do not know who I am. But if I know that my name is something, why? You can come and address me the way you want. I won't even mind. It will be a nice joke. He too can address me the way he pleases to, and I won't even mind. And there will be no crisis within. Arjun does not know himself. He is a victim to both these conditionings, the social one and the physical one, as we all are. So I advise my students, first of all, see that you are Arjun, because the Gita was instructed to Arjun. Only an Arjun can be rightful recipient of Gita. If you are not Arjun, the Gita will not help you. First of all, you should see that you are the victim of multiple identities and all kinds of conditionings, just as Arjun is. And then, step by step, verse by verse, there will be some resolution, as you said. So, that's the reason the Gita is so useful and also became so commonplace, because the very setting is of familiarity. Unlike the Upanishads, where the entire setting is idyllic and far removed from the usual householder's life, the setting of the Bhagavad Gita is extremely relatable. Everybody can relate to the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads and the Gita, they carry exactly the same message. They form part of the core of Vedanta. But still, the Upanishads are not as famous, not as relatable.
But they carry the same message.
They carry the same message. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita is called the very essence of Upanishads.
Understood.
And Vedanta is supposed to be having three legs, just to explain it. Not legs exactly, not stump exactly, but the audience would understand it this way. That's called Prasthan Trayi. Prasthan Trayi. The three pillars, you could say. So one of the pillars is Upanishads, and one of the pillars is the Bhagavad Gita. And then the third one is the Brahma Sutra. So the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, they belong to the same bracket of scriptures, much the same. Yet Gita is far more famous than the Upanishads.
Because of the
Relatability, because of the packaging and the relatability quotient. There is feeling, there is emotion, there is drama, there is bloodshed, and there is history. It is a part of the Mahabharata, and the Mahabharata has so much that fascinates us. So the Gita became far more famous.
Which is better scripting overall.
Much better scripting as well, yes.
One analogy that I observed, and I don't know if this is true or not, is that the entire story is written from the perspective of a blind king being told what is happening with somebody with second vision.
Yes, yes, yes.
I wondered if there is a metaphorical explanation to this, which is that it is not easy to look inside our own conflict.
Yes, yes, yes.
Was I reading too much into that?
No, you are not. No, you are not.
Okay.
Everything there has layered meanings.
Yeah.
And the more we get unlayered, the more the layers upon the core meaning also just remove, and the core is uncovered. So you could very well say that the blindness of Dhritarashtra is metaphorical and indicative of a deeper inability to see.
When the second chapter starts, that's where we get into we start getting into the meat of the matter, the conversation. Now, the way the advice goes through the different yogas, karma yoga and the sanya, why is it arranged in that specific order? Why is it karma yoga first, sannyasa yoga?
The arrangement is not really original.
Okay.
The arrangement came later.
Oh.
The division of chapters in this particular way, and particularly the naming of the chapters, that came later. So we need not read too much into why one particular chapter is named in one particular way.
Okay.
But what I find interesting there is that the war lasted 18 days. Yeah. And there are 18 chapters.
That is true. So was it one per day?
I think. Just cute little things to keep us engaged, and pointers and reminders that there is still something more to it.
More to it.
But one must not read too much into these things. Otherwise, one will miss the central message.
I want to talk about the three main yogas in the Bhagavad Gita. So let's talk about the karma yoga first. Which is, put it in a nutshell, what I've understood is action takes precedence over everything else. But is that the right interpretation?
See, as we were saying, Gita comes from the legacy of the Upanishads. In fact, very strictly speaking, the Upanishads are placed higher than the Gita. The Upanishads form part of what is called the Shruti literature, revealed literature, literature without an author, literature without a human author, Apaurushaya literature. So Upanishads come from there. Gita forms part of Smriti literature, where the scripture is the product of an author, a human author. It's a human creation. So the Gita forms part of Mahabharata, and Mahabharata is attributed to Vedvyas. So very, very strictly speaking, because Upanishads are Shruti and Gita is Smriti, the Upanishads are in some sense above the Bhagavad Gita. Though that is not practically how it is accepted, and it is also not useful to put it this way. But it's important to see that it's the message of the Upanishads that will reverberate through all the chapters of the Gita. It has to. The Upanishads are Gyan. What is Gyan? Gyan not in the sense of knowing about the world and this and that. Atma Gyan, self-knowledge. So the core message of Gita too is self-knowledge. Arjun, please understand who you are. So what is Karma Yoga then? Focus not on the karma but on the karta, the doer. Know who you are. If you focus too much on the action, you will be deluded. Look at the actor. If the actor is right, you need not think about the action. The action will fall in place on its own. That's Karma Yoga. I like to put it this way. Chapter 2 comes before chapter 3. Chapter 3 is Karma Yoga, chapter 2 is Jnana Yoga.
Got it. Fair.
So, the best thing was served to Arjun first of all.
Jnana Yoga.
That's the Jnana Yoga. But Arjun was still reticent. Krishna, I have my doubts. In fact, at points, he is kind of accusing Krishna of misleading him. That's the extent. Attachment and delusion can delude you. So after Jnana Yoga, which is Sankhya Yoga, then there is Karma Sannyas, and all the things that follow. So Karma, whenever Sri Krishna says Karma, it's Nishkām Karma. Whenever Sri Krishna says Jnana, it's Atma Jnana. So Karma Yoga is actually Nishkām Karma Yoga. Nishkām Karma means action that is not coming from a desirous self. Action that is not coming from a desirous actor. And if you do not know the actor will remain desirous because we are born incomplete. Where there is incompletion, there is desire. Desire to be complete. If I do not know myself, I will remain incomplete, and therefore all my actions will be full of desire. Therefore, the only way karma can be nishkam is through Atma Gyan. You cannot have Nishkām Karma without Atma Gyan. Otherwise, your Nishkām Karma will be very superficial. On the surface, you might feel you are acting without desire, but there will be some lingering desire within that you might even not know of because you don't know yourself.
And that desire is not something that can be fulfilled by just achieving the next target.
No, it never gets fulfilled.
It never gets fulfilled.
It can get fulfillment only through getting negated.